Hello, everyone, and welcome to my Week 6 fantasy football recap. This week was a rather crazy week in the NFL with a lot of pretty close games, followed by some blowouts as well. Fortunately or unfortunately for my team, my players were involved in most of the blowouts for this week. So we will get into the scoring of players for this week. Now, as always, we will start off with Peyton, as he is captain quarterback of the team. Peyton underperformed this week by 4 points, but he still did manage to put up a solid 24 points against the Jets. To me, Peyton probably should have done better against the Jets. He's had better games than this all year. He didn't even pass for 300 yards. And he did wind up having 3 touchdowns. I did watch a little bit of the Jets and the Broncos game, and I do know that the Broncos offense as a whole struggled rather mightily throughout most of the first half. Peyton was up against Aaron Rodgers this week, and Aaron Rodgers performed better. Not by much. Well, by 8 points, but that's because he had rushing attempts. So, there's that. My receivers this week. Yeah. Of course, we did have the injury to Victor Cruz, but that didn't happen until, late in the third quarter or beginning of the fourth quarter. And in that game against the Eagles, a team that he usually absolutely destroys, he only managed 2 catches for 16 yards. And now, I kind of see Victor Cruz getting hurt as a blessing in disguise for my team. Because now I don't have to worry about playing his sorry, pathetic ass week in and week out, hoping for him to finally perform and have a good game. Now I can just get rid of him and don't have to worry about putting him in. Brian Quick, on the other hand, in last night's Monday night game, I don't know what happened. He only had 1 catch for 10 yards. I can tell you that's something that happened, but Quick has been pretty solid for me, and I don't know, I guess it was just a bad matchup this week for him against the 49ers, I guess. Meanwhile, his counterpart, Michael Crabtree, on the other side, didn't have a big game, but he did wind up getting a touchdown and scaring the crap out of me with almost 14 points there on Monday night. Then I had Deshaun Jackson as my third receiver, who for 2 weeks in a row had a long touchdown pass against a pretty horrible Arizona secondary. He did have the 63-yard touchdown and another catch for over 50 yards in the game. He managed 23.5 points for me. Now we go down to the running back position. For the first time this year, I lost at the running back position. And part of the reason why is because the Seahawks, I think this week, forgot that Marshawn Lynch was their running back against the Dallas Cowboys, who don't have a very good rush defense. I just don't understand why he only carried the ball 10 times against Dallas. That's just... The game was never out of reach. Dallas's biggest lead was only a touchdown. So I don't know why they just didn't feel like running against the Cowboys. The Cowboys are a very easy team to run against, and they just didn't. And then Frank Gore last night, did have 16 rushes, but they weren't productive rushes. He averaged like 2 yards per rush, maybe a little bit more than 2 yards per rush. And that was just that. So hopefully my running backs can pick it up next week. Zach Ertz had a good week this week. Finally got a touchdown for me. Wound up with 13. He did lose the matchup to Greg Olsen, but he had a solid week. Sean Sweezum had a bad week because the Steelers' offense was a pity show against Cleveland and only were able to score 10 points against the Cleveland Browns. That is pathetic, and we just suck. Them going down to defenses, my opponents seem to have forgotten that New Orleans had a bye this week and kept the Saints' defense in this week, which is a big 0 for them on the score sheet. And I wound up picking up Atlanta's defense since the Chiefs had a bye, and they got me 13. And the Colts, 17 points. They got, they did give up a lot of points, but they had 5 sacks and 2 fumble recoveries. So they got 17. Going down to my individual defensive players, we had Mayo with 5 tackles before his very unfortunate injury. That is a huge loss for my team and an even bigger loss for the Patriots going on the remainder of the season without their defensive captain. And I now am without my best individual defensive player for the rest of the year. So I have to try my hardest to replace Jared Mayo, who has been by far my most consistent individual defensive player. But before he left the game, he did make somewhat of an impact against Buffalo. We also had DeAndre Levy, who had another solid week with 13.5 points, and Carlos Dansby with a solid week with 19. Dansby against the Steelers, he was everywhere. It seems like he was everywhere in that game. And again, I destroyed my matchup in individual defensive players again. That's been a part of my matchups that I have been pretty much excelling in every week. Now we will get into the bench players. Terrence Williams had had 2 big catches actually against the Seahawks. The one that basically on 3rd and 20 it was, that basically sealed the game for Dallas on that game-winning. That wasn't a game-winning touchdown drive. Maybe it was a game-winning touchdown drive. Zach Stacy only had 9, so my running backs that I had in actually did do better than him this week. Jay Cutler had another big week with 28. He outscored Peyton again. Brown is injured. Fred Jackson, who I have actually already inserted into my lineup for next week, because he has been playing rather well lately. He had 19 points this week, and Torrey Smith finally had a 2 touchdown. He had a 2 touchdown week this week with 2 touchdowns and 51 yards. But he did most of that damage in the first quarter against Tampa, as the The Ravens' offense just came out firing at will against Tampa, and they went straight for the throat in the first quarter when they had the 35-0 lead in the first quarter. So Torrey Smith has been inserted into my lineup for next week as well with the Victor Cruz injury. And my other receivers are not really showing anything, and Torrey Smith has a good matchup again next week against Atlanta. That's all I have for my players. Now we will get into the final score, which, as you see here, is 167.65 to 165.70. So, with that being said, I did barely win this week by less than 2 points. And as many of you may imagine, I was watching the end of last night's game, and I was like, every time St. Louis had the ball, the Rams had the ball, I was like, where is Quick? You need to pass this ball to Quick. I was finding him on my TV screen pre-snap, and with my finger, I took my finger and I was like, Cook. There's Cook. There's Quick. There's Quick. Took my finger, and whatever route he was running, I was like, there he is, there he is, there he is. And Austin Davis just kept not passing him the ball, whether or not he was open or not. It was like Austin Davis was locked in on passing the ball to everyone on the team, except for Brian Quick yesterday. Quick was open plenty of times in the fourth quarter last night, and Austin Davis did not pass him the ball. And that did not make me a happy camper. You want to know what else didn't make me happy? Also in the Monday night game, late in the game, Frank Gore was not running. Frank Gore wasn't the running back. He was on the bench, standing. He wasn't sitting. He wasn't hurt or anything. He was standing on the bench, holding his helmet, wanting to go into the game, and they were running with Carlos Hyde. So, for that reason, I have requested a trade. Including Jay Cutler and Frank Gore for Antonio Brown. Because we all know that I don't need no Jay Cutler on my team anymore. He has served his purpose. Peyton Manning's bye week is over. Peyton, knock on wood. Peyton doesn't get injured. And Frank Gore, I'm selling high on Frank Gore right now. Because his carries, his workload is definitely going to be going down with Carlos Hyde as a 49er. And we all know that I need a receiver, and Antonio Brown is the most consistent receiver in the NFL right now. I do not care what anybody says. Antonio Brown, you know what you're going to get from him. He's getting 5 catches in a game. He's getting 100 yards in a game. So, I leave you this week at 4-2 and remaining for the third week in a row in second place in the league. I will see you guys next week for my matchup. And until next time, good luck, have fun, and be safe.